You are not drinking water. You are diluting your blood. And your brain is the first thing that pays for it. Most people think of water as purely safe. The worst they imagine is running to the bathroom too often. But drinking too much water doesn't just fill your bladder. It dilutes the sodium concentration in your bloodstream. Sodium is not just a flavoring. It is the primary electrolyte that controls how much water enters and exits every cell in your body. When sodium levels in your blood drop too low, a condition called hyponatremia, water begins flooding into cells to restore balance. Most cells in your body can handle some swelling, your brain cannot. The skull is a rigid fixed container. There is no room to expand. As brain cells absorb excess water and begin to swell, the brain presses against the inside of the skull. Pressure builds, blood flow is compromised. The result is seizures, coma, brain herniation, and death, caused entirely by drinking too much water. Not poison, not alcohol, water. The 8 glasses a day rule was invented in 1945, and it was based on a misreading of a single sentence. The advice every person on Earth has received, drink 8 glasses of water per day, has no scientific basis whatsoever. A 2002 review by Dartmouth physiologist Heinz Walton, published in the American Journal of Physiology, searched exhaustively for the scientific origin of the 8x8 rule and found none. What he did find was a 1945 recommendation from the U.S. Food and Nutrition Board suggesting adults consume about 2.5 liters of fluid per day. With a crucial clarifying sentence immediately following, most of this quantity is contained in prepared foods. That sentence was ignored. The recommendation was misread as requiring 2.5 liters of pure water on top of food. That misreading became a rule. That rule became conventional wisdom. That conventional wisdom was then enthusiastically promoted by the bottled water industry, including a major European hydration advocacy group that was, it later emerged, created and funded by Danone, the company that owns Evian, Volvic, and Badouet. The rule telling you to drink more water was invented by the people selling you water. Your kidneys have a maximum processing speed, and you can exceed it with a garden hose. The human kidney can excrete roughly 1 liter of water per hour under optimal conditions. This sounds like a lot. It is not. If you drink faster than your kidneys can process, which is surprisingly easy to do, the water accumulates in your bloodstream faster than it can be removed. Your sodium concentration falls. Your cells begin absorbing the excess. The speed at which this happens matters enormously. Slow overhydration gives the brain time to adapt and compensate. Fast overhydrations, drinking several liters in under an hour, can kill a healthy adult before any medical intervention is possible. Research has documented cases described as hyperacute water intoxication, where sodium levels collapsed so rapidly that death occurred before the person could reach a hospital. A man died after winning a beer drinking contest he won consuming 6 liters in 20 minutes. The coroner's report indicated the cause was not alcohol toxicity. It was water intoxication from the fluid volume itself. MDMA doesn't kill you by being too strong, it kills you by making water deadly. The public understanding of ecstasy deaths focuses on the drug being too potent, too pure, or cut with something dangerous. In reality, several of the most well-documented ecstasy deaths were caused not by the drug itself, but by the interaction between the drug and water. MDMA triggers the release of antidiuretic hormone, ADH, which signals the kidneys to stop excreting water. Urination slows dramatically or stops entirely. Simultaneously, MDMA raises body temperature, causing users to sweat heavily and feel intensely thirsty. The standard harm reduction advice at the time was to drink plenty of water. So users drank sometimes liters per hour, while their kidneys were being chemically prevented from removing it. The water had nowhere to go. Sodium concentration collapsed. In 1995, a healthy 18-year-old girl died at her own birthday party after taking a single tablet of ecstasy and drinking approximately 7 liters of water in response to thirst. The inquest determined she did not die from the drug. She died from water intoxication. The drug simply made the water lethal. Marathon runners have died not from exhaustion or dehydration, but from drinking too much at aid stations. The conventional image of a marathon death involves collapsing from dehydration and heat. Exercise-associated hyponatremia, overhydration during endurance events, is now documented in approximately 13% of marathon runners. At the 2002 Boston Marathon alone, researchers found a significant proportion of runners had dangerously low sodium levels at the finish line. Multiple deaths have been directly attributed to runners drinking too much water at aid stations rather than too little. The symptoms of hyponatremia, nausea, confusion, disorientation, are almost identical to the symptoms of dehydration, meaning medical staff at race events historically treated overhydrated runners with more IV fluids, which worsened the condition and in some cases accelerated death. Runners have reportedly hidden rocks in their pockets to make themselves appear heavier at weigh stations, avoiding being ordered to drink more. The people trying to avoid drinking more water during a marathon were protecting themselves. The people following official guidance were sometimes killing themselves. Women are significantly more likely to die from water intoxication than men, and the reason is hormonal. This is almost never mentioned in general coverage of the topic. The research on MDMA-related hyponatremia deaths found a striking pattern. Virtually all fatal cases involved women. Reviews of exercise-associated hyponatremia deaths show a similar skew. The mechanism is not behavioral, that it is hormonal. Estrogen and progesterone suppress the brain's ability to compensate for falling sodium levels. Specifically, these hormones impair the brain's adaptive response to cell swelling, meaning female brains begin herniating against the skull at lower sodium concentrations and faster timescales than male brains in the same condition. A young premenopausal woman who drinks the same volume of water as a man of equivalent size in the same time frame faces meaningfully greater risk of fatal brain swelling. This biological difference has been documented consistently across multiple research teams and multiple contexts. It is almost never communicated in any public health messaging about hydration. The symptoms of drinking too much water are identical to the symptoms of not drinking enough, which is why people keep drinking. This is the feature of water intoxication that makes it particularly lethal and particularly invisible. The early symptoms of hyponatremia, nausea, headache, confusion, fatigue, muscle weakness are the exact same symptoms that everyone associates with dehydration. A marathon runner at mile 20 who feels nauseated and confused is almost universally assumed to be dehydrated by themselves and by race officials. An athlete who feels weak and headachy during exercise reaches for water as the obvious solution. A person at a rave who feels confused and nauseous after taking MDMA reaches for water because they've been told that's the safe thing to do. In every case, the response to the symptoms of overhydration is to drink more water, which worsens the overhydration, which worsens the symptoms, which triggers more drinking. The condition accelerates itself invisibly because it mimics its own opposite, and the treatment for the opposite is the cause of the condition. Drinking too much water during pregnancy can cause a rare condition that mimics severe mental illness. This point almost never appears in water intoxication content because it sits at an unusual intersection of obstetrics and neurology. Pregnant women are routinely told to increase their water intake significantly. The kidneys during pregnancy do increase their processing capacity, but excessive fluid intake can still drive sodium low enough to cause what is clinically described as hyponatremic encephalopathy, brain dysfunction from sodium pollution. The symptoms in severe cases include hallucinations, delusional thinking, extreme agitation, and complete disconnection from reality. These presentations have been misdiagnosed as acute psychotic breaks, postpartum psychosis, or sudden-onset schizophrenia before blood sodium levels were checked. The psychiatric presentation resolves when sodium is corrected. The person was not experiencing a mental health crisis. They were experiencing water toxicity that was affecting their brain in a way that looked exactly like one. The kidney's ability to handle water drops dramatically with age, making the standard advice about drinking more water genuinely dangerous for elderly people. Children and elderly people have significantly reduced kidney processing capacity compared to healthy adults. In elderly individuals, kidney function declines progressively, meaning the 1 liter per hour maximum processing speed is a ceiling they cannot reach. Simultaneously, the thirst mechanism in elderly people becomes less accurate. They often feel thirsty when they are not physiologically dehydrated. This creates a situation where an elderly person following standard advice to drink more water, acting on a thirst signal that is misfiring and possessing kidneys that cannot process the excess quickly, can develop hyponatremia from water intake that would be harmless in a younger adult. Elderly people taking diuretic medications face additional risk because these drugs alter kidney water handling in ways that compound the problem. The advice to drink more water is broadly applied across all age groups. The physiology it is based on belongs to young, healthy adults. For elderly people with reduced kidney function, the standard recommendation to stay well hydrated by drinking consistently throughout the day can, in the wrong circumstances, become a mechanism for sodium dilution and neurological damage. The advice to drink more water is broadly applied across all age groups. The physiology it is based on belongs to young, healthy adults. For elderly people with reduced kidney function, the standard recommendation to stay well hydrated by drinking consistently throughout the day can, in the wrong circumstances, become a mechanism for sodium dilution and neurological damage. Your body already knows exactly how much water you need, and the signal it sends you has been working reliably for 300,000 years. The thirst mechanism is one of the most precisely calibrated systems in the human body. The hypothalamus continuously monitors blood osmolality, the concentration of dissolved substances in your blood, and triggers thirst at the exact point where hydration is needed. It is not a vague, general signal. It is a specific biological response to a specific measurable change in blood chemistry. Healthy adults who drink only when thirsty and stop when they are not have been shown across multiple studies to maintain perfect hydration without any counting, scheduling, or water bottle carrying. The advice to drink before you're thirsty, to stay ahead of thirst, was popularized in the 1990s primarily by sports drink companies, whose products were positioned as superior to water precisely because they contained electrolytes that water lacked. The implication was that thirst was an unreliable guide. The science says the opposite. For healthy adults who are not engaged in extreme exertion and extreme heat, thirst is an almost perfectly reliable hydration guide. The advice telling you to override it, to drink on a schedule rather than in response to your own biology, is the advice that has sent people to the hospital,